this idea of audience. I mean, is there an audience for Mormon literature? Which is can be frustrating in the same way that the question about Shakespeare is frustrating. Is like, do people actually want to read your stuff? Ask myself this all the time when I sit down to write a play that has an LDS angle. It's like, is anyone going to come to see this show? And you actually have to take that a few steps back and be like, is anyone going to produce this play? Which is a very legit question. Plays are meant to be performed. So it's like, is there an audience? Which I think is integral to that question of, yeah, are we going to have Shakespeare's our own? Because the Shakespeare was a populist. He was very popular in his time. Audiences came to him. So it's like, yeah, is there an audience? Do people want this work?
Yeah, I'd answer that in two ways. One is we're in pretty early stages of building the infrastructure to have a market
Hmm.
where people, because a market is how do you convert people's emotional experience into a resource pool
Hmm.
that helps support the creation of additional work, right? Um, it is kind of cool that we have like Deseret Book, like they're doing more devotional work, but
Hmm.
like not every religion has its own
No, it's
bookstore,
true.
right?
It's very true. Yeah.
Um, and so I think that's cool. I think it's cool that we have had people who've been successful in the broader market. But in terms of like the literary, right, the stuff that we can say kind of does different work about representing the culture and asking deep questions and that kind of high culture stuff that people mean when they put literature with a capital L, right?
Right.
Um, there, there's not a huge market for that period anywhere. This is not a time where that's been maybe as valued as it was at some different times. But in Mormon literature, we're early in building that market.
Hmm.
That is different from is there an audience in the sense of can you have a deep aesthetic, emotional, and spiritual connection with, like, can a reader have that experience with work? And you know as well as I do, right? Like 20 years ago, when I was doing New Play Project, you were doing New Play Project, and people were coming to plays. Little Happy Secrets in 2008, man,
Yeah.
those were talkbacks, right? That
Hmm.
people came and saw this play by Mel about somebody who realized she's falling in love with her roommate at BYU and post mission. And it's just a very human story where the monologues are prayers and that kind of stuff. And I remember people there coming from lots of different angles, whether they felt like, man, this is my story and I'm seeing it on stage in front of other people, or people who
Hmm.
were like, I have never thought about this way. I've
Right.
thought about it from other angles.
Yeah.
That was a really meaningful thing. Absolutely, people have been moved by my work when I was doing prep for this interview. Literally, while I'm doing prep, I got a text from somebody saying, "Hey, my son finished Tales of the Kelm First Ward." It's
Yeah.
this sort of gently satirical comedy. Kelm is like in Eastern European Jewish folklore, a village of village idiots, and the premise is
Hmm.
there's a ward there now. There's Latter-day Saints, and they're
Yeah.
all idiots. And so they're doing things that you may recognize because in your ward we're somewhere on that spectrum.
Somewhere.
Um, but yeah, so his son, who I think is in his teens still, finished the book, loved the book, and was like, "You got to ask him for a sequel, right?"
Mm.
It's a
Hmm.
beautiful thing to get that kind of thing. I got another,
Yeah, you always want folks to want more. That's the good
yeah,
sign. Yeah.
yeah, because it shows they're having an experience with this that is inflecting the other parts of their life in some way.
Hmm.
That it wasn't just, oh, that was a fun experience, good, next,
Yeah.
but that they want to continue to engage with something in this space.
Right.
Um, I just got a request recently by somebody in my email. She said, "Hey, it's my friend's birthday coming up. Is one of the zero birthdays, right? I think she's turning 40.
Oh, that's such a big
And
birthday.
she was like, could I get a signed book by you?" And it was funny
Um,
because she's writing like I'm a big deal, and I'm like, I'm just a dude, like I'm in my basement right now. Yes, I can. Thank you for telling me
yeah.
that you care. But
Yeah.
one thing that stood out to that request, about that request to me, was that she said, really, your writing is kind of how we became friends. That we were
Oh.
at church together and we
Hmm.
both liked this kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
we'd go on walks and we'd talk about it. And
Yeah.
like, you don't know us, but you've been important to bringing out some of those
Hmm.
things that otherwise, like, people don't just, you might want a heart-to-heart conversation. It's like tough to break the ice and get there, right?
Right, right, right.
Kafka called literature an axe for the frozen sea inside of
Mm,
us.
yeah,
And
that's
so I
great.
think if we can get like the religious part of you, those waters run deep. And if you can
Hmm.
get an axe through the waters of like habit and just the force of repetition that happens in a religious culture and help you talk about it new again, super meaningful.
Yeah.
Um, had a guy in Trader Joe's stop me recently to thank me for an essay called On Sealing and On Salting and Sealing or Sealing and
Mm.
Salting. I don't even remember the title of my own essay, but it's an essay about when
There are a
people
lot of
leave the
them.
church and how do we make sense of that
Yeah.
and how can we feel like they were salted by their experience. Maybe this is part of the work we do is can I
Hmm.
give you something to take with you in whatever other life experience. But he came up to me and it was interesting because he's like, hey, are you James Goldberg? And I'm like, dude, we're in Orem. If you think it's me, it's probably me. Um, but yes, I'm James Goldberg.
That's
And
like
he
our very
said,
first meeting, me going, is it the dude with the beard? Yes, it's the dude with
yeah,
the beard. Yeah.
but he's somebody who's not involved in the church anymore, but
Hmm.
somehow still found this essay and
Hmm.
found it like really healing
Yeah.
to have a voice from being religiously active in the community who's still reaching out and meeting him where he is,
Yeah.
right? And
Hmm.
thinking through the complex. And that's one where actually editors got back to me and were like, we don't feel like you've taken seriously the how tough this can be in a relationship. I'm like, okay, I gotta like go back to that, take an axe to that part of my heart, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that I can come talk about that. Beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna tell one more story about readers,
Okay.
which is I got sent a photo once from that's a woman in a hospital bed and she's holding Let Me Drown with Moses, this
Mm.
book.
Mm. Hmm.
And I got this photo because it was the last book she read. She passed away shortly after that and kind of young. I think it was like
Mm.
complications after childbirth or something and
Oh
just
gosh.
heartbreaking.
So hard. Yeah.
Um, but the friend who sent me the photo said, I just want you to know, right? That like at this last part of her life where she like didn't know what's gonna happen,
Hmm.
this was with her, right? She could
Right.
have that comfort. And that's that heights and depths discussion we were having again, right?
Yeah.
Are we capable of having those conversations? Yes, because we're humans, we go through things.
Hmm.
And we need to do that work of not looking away because there are going to be people who can't. They don't have the option.
Uh-huh.
And so, yes, there's an audience because as long as there are people going through mortality
Hmm.
and sometimes right on that edge of
Hmm.
mortality, there are going to be people who need to find connection
Yeah.
and this boiled down and concentrated language, right? The emotional, spiritual, and intellectual labor of looking at something really long and giving it this compact shape, like that's going to be a service to them. So the potential audience, right? The audience connection is real and it's
Hmm.
happening. What we
Hmm.
need to do is build that out to a market that can sustain future writers in their craft. Because
Right.
in Mormon painting, we have a lot more going on now. Because if somebody has a deep experience with the painting, there's a way for them to like financially represent the depth of their experience. If
Mm.
somebody reads one of my books and has like a life changing experience, typically I make like $2 to $4 off of that,
Yeah.
which I'm not complaining about, right? Like
No, no, it's just
I have
different.
a
Yeah.
job So I'm
Hmm.
okay. Like I can do this as ministering. My only concern about that is it going to continue to happen? I feel behind as a
Hmm.
writer. I feel
Hmm.
like there is more need in our community. I was going to say demand, but it's need. Sometimes it's not a felt demand. People don't know what to ask for.
Yeah.
But there's this like deep need for the kind of work that a certain kind of writer is doing. And I feel like we've underserved people because we don't always know how to help somebody develop into a writer. So we don't have the range of voices available. And then we have a real distribution problem. We people have this need, but they know not where to find it, to borrow that Doctrine and
Yeah.
Covenants phrase.
Right.
And that's something I have maybe not done a good job at making
Uh-huh.
myself more findable, but
Uh-huh.
also we could do better as a community. I do feel like when I get invited onto a podcast, I did for 4 years a BYU TV show called Come Follow Up that's
Hmm.
about scripture. And I'd read not just my poems, but other people's poems there because I feel like they're useful and I
Yeah.
feel like it helps. And I've heard from a ton of people because that had a broader audience because there was the broader BYU
Yeah.
TV infrastructure.
Right.
Um, I've heard from a ton of people who go like, "Man, we're always excited when you come on." And I think the number one reason, I might be because I'm pretty. It's the eye candy, but
Yeah.
I think the
That's why
number
I
one
sign on.
reason is because they didn't know how much they needed that kind of literary approach
Hmm.
to faith.
Right.
And so, yes, there's an audience. There is work to be done in building the system
Hmm.
around the audience need.
Yeah.
And I hope we continue to do that.
Because you have the audience and you have the work, and it's a question of making the one accessible to the other.
Yes. Yep. And
Yeah.
I can feel guilt about the fact that I'm not like constantly, I'm not making my own YouTube channel and helping build stuff up. And maybe I can work on that, right?
Right.
But also, it's a huge relief when somebody else has done the work of building audience because that's their skill set.
Right.
They built the organization and that, and they can invite me to come and
Hmm.
become part of that conversation. We have a critical mass of people who are ready to participate.
Right.
We need more people to look and find those places and support those institutions so that these kind of things can happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing those experiences. I have some of those myself where it's kind of surprising, where you read it's like sometimes being an artist is this like you're just putting it out there. You're just putting
You
it
have
out there, and
no
the hope is
idea.
that someone is moved by it, someone is touched by it. And it can be weeks or months or years before I get, someone will come up to me and say, "Hey, I saw your show at such and such a time, or I read your play." And it can be worth it just for that one person, for that interaction to be like, I'm not just doing this for myself. And if there's a way to ensure that more folks have access and can and be aware of the fact that there are artists and writers like ourselves, and that we are only two of many, that there is a lot of great work being made regularly, and that, when folks ask that question, it's like, well, is there Mormon literature? And we can wave our hands and say, yeah, look over here.
Yeah.
Um, and then
And I
that
think
goes both
maybe
ways.
that's
It's
the
like, is
thing
there an
for
audience for Mormon
people.
literature?
Yep.
Yeah.
Instead of going, is there Mormon literature? We are at a point now where you should assume yes. If
Yes.
you haven't found the book for you yet,
Keep looking.
let's keep looking and we'll try to help, right?
We'll try to help. And maybe it
And
doesn't exist and someone's going to write it,
yep. And you will have to wade through some books that aren't for you. And that's
which is
okay.
just the way books are anyway.
That's how books are. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of content in the world. There's more content now than there has been at any other point. And sometimes, yeah, you just have to search for the good stuff because that's what makes the good stuff the good stuff.